Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory, and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table, and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests.
Episode 131, Korotkiy, the Professional Mourner. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining SkylineStars' table in the Levitating Platter. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast, in my humbly biased opinion. I've got an awesome guest for you this week, but before we get to my guest, you know I gotta do it. I gotta leave you in suspense with the ad read. This episode is brought to you by Plus One EXP and their brand new RPG Zine Club. Zine Club is a monthly membership subscription service featuring fresh zines from emerging and expanding creators across the globe. It's our way of inviting GMs, players, and zine lovers everywhere to invest more intentionally in the creative community. It's crowdsourced support without crowdfunding. So this service offers monthly releases that they put out in two 20 to 44 page saddle stitch zines. 3 different flavors. Take your pick from story zines, adventure zines, and all of the zines. You can pick your format of print and digital, or just get digital only for your favorite titles. Join the Clubhouse Discord section of the Plus One EXP community on Discord. Get the best prices guaranteed from your subscription that you're going to get each month. You get a private subscription portal where you can manage your subscription, add products, or change your information. Change your frequency monthly, every other month, something else. You pick how often you want these new titles to arrive. You only get what you want. And if you miss a month, why, you can always go back and add a title to your recent month's order. Get an annual surprise each February after your first anniversary. Get access to special content with interviews, how to play videos, special content for Zine Club titles. Get a free pizza if you fill out one of the RPG Zine Club passports, or redeem it for a free pizza at events where Tony is present himself. You're going to get access to new and known designers, the best voices from across the RPG design community. And know that Plus One EXP and RPG Zine Club curate their zines based on community interest and feedback to help you discover your new favorite creators. There's a DIE focus because Plus One is committed to championing diversity, inclusion, and equity in their projects. Creators with diverse experiences make our community better. So Zine Club prioritizes creating equity for all of our creators. And it's more than a purchase. Your subscriptions will let us invest more heavily in our print partners and provide them with potentially life-changing support by consolidating scores or hundreds of purchases as the club grows. So, if you want to learn more, I would recommend that you go to the website rpgzine.club. Again, rpgzine.club. And if you want, go to plusoneexp.com. And when you're buying stuff on that site, beard balms or lip balms or beard RPGs or whatnot, and you need a discount code at checkout, be sure to use the code Randolph, RANDOLPH, at checkout and get some savings on your purchase at no extra cost to you. Again, website is plusoneexp.com, and the Zine Club website is rpgzine.club. All right, and without further ado, I turn the microphone over to my guest and I ask, hello, would you care to introduce yourself? Tell us who it is that you are and what is it that you do?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I am SkylineStars. I am a cosplayer here in Dallas, Texas. I also run a small business that focuses on making cloaks. And yeah.
Yes, and we had the opportunity to meet in person when we both attended the first inaugural FateCon that happened here in the local DFW area.
Yeah, that was really cool. I honestly, I will take any chance I can get to vend inside ever again, especially now that Texas has decided it wants to reach 95 degrees.
Yeah. And so not only are you a cosplayer, but you also you make clothing items and other assortments of objects.
Yeah, so I started off as a cosplay, so that's where I sort of learned like my sewing skills and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed making cloaks for my friends for like local Ren fairs. And I said, what if I just could make everyone a cloak? So I started off my business Enchanted Moth Hollow, making cloaks, Ren fair accessories, and some D&D stuff like dice boxes.
Very cool. Yes, I when I was there in person and I had the opportunity, milling around before I did my live recording there, had the opportunity to get to see some of those wares. So it was really cool to get to see them in person. So yeah, and I like to start the podcast off easy, with a softball question. But do you currently, or have you ever played D&D before?
Yes, I have. The first time I played D&D was back in 2018. I just went off to college to Dallas and I was looking to make new friends. And luckily, someone sat next to me and they started talking about Warhammer and D&D, and D, and I was like, "Oh, I've always wanted to play that." So I got to make new friends. I got to learn how to play D&D, and win-win.
Did you also get to learn how to play Warhammer? Because listeners of this podcast know I have my history of it back in my junior high days.
No, absolutely not. I said, "Wow, that's a lot of money and things to do," but like cool figures though.
Fair enough. Okay, you may have spared yourself that way, but yeah. Okay, very cool. So yeah, so fifth edition primarily has been the system you've been with for the most part.
Yes, and I have a couple friends that will do like different modules and different systems, but mostly fifth edition. Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean we love tabletop role playing games in general. I know D&D is in just, the general milieu, that everyone knows. But, I'm happy to rock out with some indie games and the like. Very cool. And with the namesake of this podcast being sidekicks and side quests, we like to ask who happens to be your favorite NPC or sidekick character, whether they're from an RPG, video game, movie, film, television, etc. And why is this character your favorite NPC or your favorite sidekick?
Oh gosh, that's hard. I was thinking about this before I got on, and I wanted to say something Dragon Age related because I have Veilguard on my mind.
Hmm.
But honestly, I think the very first one was in Skyrim, and it was Lydia. It was Lydia. She was there to serve, and I put all of my garbage onto her, and I said, "Let's go right into the sunset together and slay dragons." And then she got lost in a cave, and I never saw her again. So,
Classic. Just classic Skyrim shenanigans, I suppose.
absolutely.
And then same thing. What's been one of your favorite side quests, whether it's been, RPG, video game, movie, film, television, etc. And why has this side quest or this B plot element stuck with you?
Ooh, okay. Side quest. Probably it's gonna be Skyrim again. Skyrim's gonna pop up a couple times. My favorite game. It's the companion side quest where you get to become spoiler a werewolf. I thought it was actually really fleshed out for a Skyrim quest and not too fetch questy, but 2011 RPG games tend to be a little go find this, go come back. You're a werewolf now. Congratulations.
So you opted to become a werewolf over becoming a vampire.
Yeah, because when I first started playing, I was 11 when I first got it, so I was like walking around. I was like, "Oh, these people are right next to me. I guess I'll do their quest first." And then I realized I was kind of locked out of being a vampire. But
Mhm.
werewolves are cool. I can handle those werewolf powers.
Man, you just said, "Oh, I started playing when I was 11," and I think I'm like, "Oh, Skyrim." I was like in early college. when that came out. So now I just feel the gulf of time just opened up before me when you shared that tidbit. So, whew.
I will not start saying Riz or Skibbity Toilet. Don't worry. I'm not. I'm a little bit too aged out for that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not quite caught up on all the lingo, and luckily my son is 3, so I don't have to worry about that kind of lingo for hopefully a long time. Yes, hopefully my old man won't be showing too much by that point. And then the way that I like to end or round out the personal interview section of the show is I ask the question, what are you passionate about and why?
I'm very, very passionate about cosplay and just in general making things. I love turning a lot of stuff that people would consider to be like trash into art. So I had this little project where I was taking items from the dollar store and I would transform them into like house decorations, and that was really fun. And I also really love to go to thrift stores and see what I can make from there, either cosplay wise or actually, funny enough, with Enchanted Moth Hollow, I started off making cloaks out of bed sheets and curtains. So, I just like repurposing something that is maybe trash to one person can be a work of art or a cosplay or a cloak to someone else.
And especially, with some of those vintage stores, I mean, you could be pulling some pretty cool threads for yourself if you were looking for
Oh, yeah.
like a corduroy suit or something, made out of nylon and, parachute fabric or something like that.
Absolutely. I'm about to make my first ever leather pants out of a recycled leather jacket. So we'll see how that goes.
Ooh, I wonder, are you going to keep all the zippy pockets?
No, it's for an Aloy cosplay, so they didn't have zippers in that game. So lucky for me, I don't have to install a zipper, but
I was just thinking if you got like a biker's leather jacket and all of a sudden you're like, look, I've got all these zippers for all these pockets.
make the zip away pants.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the whoosh, yeah. Dramatic clothes change. Yeah, because that's something that our cosplayers have to build into all their costumes is for when they are in a contest and then they do like the dramatic twirl and all of a sudden they're wearing the second outfit that you were like, how did you manage to hide that one?
Yeah, those are my favorite. Those are so cool.
Excited to get to the next part of the show, which of course is NPC creation. And NPC creation is brought to you by you, our podcast audience, and our patrons from Patreon. So now is the time in the show where we give a shout out aloud, hurrah, to all of our comfortable patrons and above. So I raise my can of sangria, pure cane sugar. I don't know. This is a weird flavor from HEB, but I got a fridge full of it and I got to drink it anyway. I'm wildly diverting from this part, but cheers to you, our queen of the Patreon, Goblin Katie, aka Katie Downey, as well as our other wealthy tier patrons, Ainson Jablinski and good old mom and dad. We say cheers. Again, these folks donate at least $2 or more a month to get their names shouted out on every episode. They're all at least wealthy tier patrons, which means they get to introduce an element of chance to our random tables, which we're going to use here today. So if you want to learn more about our Patreon community, help invest in the show, take us to the next level, why we've got all the accommodations that you could ever want waiting for you. For those details, just go to the show notes below, directly to my podcast website, or just go to patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests to learn more. And can't wait to see you in the levitating platter as we work to expand in this demi-plane and worlds beyond. There you go. That's how you save that section of that shtick. All right. So this part of the show is NPC creation. So yeah, we get to make up a character, a brand new NPC that's waiting to take their first steps out onto the stage of life. And so you said that you wanted to opt for total randomization today. You wanted to go through with all the dice rolls and build a brand new NPC today. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay. So as I have my tables pulled up here, we are ready to go. And the first question we ask is, what is going to be the name of our character? We determine this randomly with the roll of a d20.
Let me roll a d20. I got a 12.
12. Ooh, okay. Your answer was provided by our Patreon supporter, Nicholas Cardarelli. Let's see, it's spelled Korotkiy, which I want to say in my heart sounds like it ought to be pronounced Korotkiy. Is what my heart tells me, but unless you feel like that particular spelling yields a different pronunciation.
No, I think that's good. I think we can work with Korotkiy, either shortening it to Koro or Tiki. That could be fun. Okay.
Okay, Korotkiy. All right, very good. And then let's see, the next thing we get to roll for is the ancestry of the character, which this can swing wildly. Let's roll 2d10s for a d100 effect to figure out the ancestry.
Awesome. All right, let's see. That is a 1 and a 10.
Okay, so we just got 1 and a 10, which would be 100
or 11.
Or 11. Okay, I'll tell you what they both are. So 11 would be a lamia, or if we go all the way up to 100, that's a yeti, which would be very funny, reminiscent of a previous episode where we had both a lamia and a yeti featured in a single episode.
Oh, we should do a yeti. Korotkiy, the yeti.
Okay, very good. Yeti. Okay. The next thing we get to roll for is the job or role in society that Korotkiy would have. This is just a regular D10 roll.
3.
3. Okay, your answer is provided by previous guest Brady Effler. Korotkiy the Yeti is a professional mourner.
Oh, okay. So they're attending funerals as hired guard, but as a hired crier.
Exactly. Yep. Professional mourner. That's how they make a living in the world. And then the next thing we get to roll for randomly before we take a small pause on the dice rolling, the age range of our character. This we determine with a D8.
That is a 5.
5, midlife. So we have a middle-aged yeti named Korotkiy. That's a professional mourner. So with all these details in mind, conjure the physical appearance. So we have to, this is purely an audio medium. So describe the physical appearance of Korotkiy, the Yeti professional mourner that's middle-aged.
When I think of Yeti, the first thing I think of is the two-horned, white fur, sort of the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop-motion Christmas special. Yeah, Bumble. That's the first thing I think about. So that's what came to mind instantly when I thought of Yeti. Professional mourner, though, and middle-aged, I wanted to lean more as Korotkiy is a very, very professional man. He's always wearing a singular tie in black because, mourner, gotta come in black, as well as glasses perched on his nose. So you can see the dead body. You might not know the person, but you want to know some details about them. So maybe the glasses will help see if they're like an elf or something. I don't think. Do Yetis wear clothes?
We did have to look this up on the episode with Katie D. Mateus and Benjamin Martin Mooney. Technically, Yeti fur is so coarse and thick that they don't have need of wearing clothes, and apparently, depending on the season, the coloration of the fur can change too. So if it's more in the summer months, it's like you shed your white winter coat and you get like brown fur. And then if, when you go back to the cold in the winter, then it's like, okay, now your coat comes back in thick and ready for the frigid weather and all that.
Okay.
Unless, Korotkiy could totally, be like a sheep and get shorn to adapt wherever he is. And then that's how he's able to fit in clothes or have need of clothes because he's like, oh, I've shaved off all my fur and stuff like that.
I don't know why the first thing that came to me was shaving in like a fur bikini. maybe if like a surfer had died recently and a hired mourner came in and wanted to support the surfer and the fur bikini. Yeah, but wait, okay. having Korotkiy be like able to adapt to any of the person that he's mourning for does sound really fun. So he has the black tie classic, but he also adds in sort of little accessories. Like if he wants to appear more like a feminine yeti, he has a black veil and maybe a fancy briefcase. Or if, oh gosh, trying to think of other fun outfits. We already have the fur bikini, the veil, tie.
Moo?
I'm unaware of what that is.
So muumuus are a type of dress or garb that come from Polynesia. I think specifically the Hawaiian Islands. It's kind of like a long over, like just like a long plain over dress, I believe.
Okay, yeah. I think
Just looking for something easy for someone of a large size creature frame to be able to easily put on. Not saying that he couldn't be friends with a tailor who's able to make all these custom pieces of clothing that he'd need to wear. I just figured something like a muumuu might be easy, depending on where Korotkiy's located.
Yeah, and I think maybe having like a chest of accessories that Korotkiy can choose from will help his business a lot. So maybe he's more of like a maybe Korotkiy's a cosplayer.
Oh, okay. That's how it loops in. I mean, so now you're kind of you're drawing on a well of deep knowledge to kind of help inform the character. Okay.
Exactly. So I think general Korotkiy outfit, if he's in between jobs right now, is glasses and a black tie. Must remain professional, but still.
And so my question is, depending on the kind of setting that you're in, like if we're thinking of like a major fantasy metropolitan sort of area where you could come across all sorts of wild creatures all living in close proximity to each other, or if it's like, traditional fantasy land where it's like, oh, you'd only find yetis like way up in the mountains and stuff like that. So how are you kind of imagining Korotkiy living and thriving? Is he's like a fish out of water? Like, I left my tribe, I'm here in civilization, I like wearing clothes and costumes, and people want someone big and furry to mourn for them and comfort their family, and so that's how I fell into this gig kind of a thing? Or what are you thinking?
I think Korotkiy belonged to a traveling circus. As a yeti.
Okay.
Before that, he was sort of like dropped off at a doorstep, sort of here's a baby, raise it, but like as a whole yeti. So I think he was dropped off at a circus and sort of got his sort of love for acting and dress up from there. And one day the circus had traveled to these larger city where more fantasy races and species do exist. And I think that's where he learned about sort of the professional mourners. Because I feel like if you are in a circus, you are around actors of different types. And so I feel like maybe at like a like a little luncheon of actors and circus peoples and mourners, they all got together and networked.
Ah. Is there a guild of mourners, you think?
I think it would be a branch of like a guild of actors or bards, but like maybe like a more,
it's like a specialization
niche,
within the Actors Guild.
Yeah.
You must be properly vestured in order to attain these ranks of professional mourner.
Yeah, the interview process is you just go up and cry in front of them.
Oh, but you have to be able to cry on demand.
Yeah, cry on demand and change up your cries. You want
it's like we want tears. Like wailing, and then he's like, and it's like now we want like demure and like barely any tears, and like sucks it in, and it's like barely. It's like perfect, yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Okay, so this is cool because it's like morphed into like we thought, professional mourner, how's that going to work? And now it's turned into this whole backstory of like, well, he was part of a circus. That's where he learned acting and costuming and all that stuff. And now he's specialized to be able to do this. So does he still remain with the circus, or is he like left the circus? He's joined the local actors guild in this major metropolitan area. And this is like how he chooses to make his living.
Yeah, I think he, as soon as he like had this interaction with the Actors Guild, he sort of was like, "All right, I'm getting too old for the circus now. I need to pave my own way in the world." So that's when he decided to join up with the Actors Guild and get gigs and contracts as a professional mourner.
Mm. Right. So his main source of income is the professional mourner because obviously people are dying every day and not everyone can afford resurrections. Have you seen
Yeah.
the gold and the gold prices these days? How much can it buy? So yeah, so obviously people need mourners adventurers need mourners, especially if
Mm-hmm.
they are the edgy backstories of like, oh, I'm an orphan and I have no parents and attachments. So you obviously need someone to come to your funerary services to properly mourn for you.
Yeah, you can't have no one at your funeral service. Like, one is kind of cool, but if you have no one, it's just kind of sad.
Yeah, so that's where his valuable services come in. Okay, all right, cool. And let's see. So we've got this idea of his history and like how it informs how he looks and stuff like that. Are there any other interesting or defining characteristics or features that would make him stand apart as a yeti, as a professional mourner, or anything like that? I'm just thinking of like Harrison Ford's character has that chin scar, and so in the opening of The Last Crusade, it shows young Indiana Jones, River Phoenix, going through the circus car, and he uses the bullwhip, and he hits himself in the face with the whip. That's how he has the scar on his chin. I was just thinking because of I drew the parallel with the circus thing, so I was like, oh, does he have any cool scars from his circus days or whatever?
Maybe not so much scars, but from his circus days, he's learned like some of the other trades of the circus. Maybe not so much as acting and costuming, but he's very nimble for a yeti, so that
Mm-hmm.
makes him able to get out of sticky situations pretty fast.
Okay.
If you need to get out of a funeral really quickly because someone is like, "Hey, who are you?" You'll be like, "Oh, gotta go."
Exit stage left. Pew. Okay. All right. So he's nimble, and then learned a couple of other tricks and trade of the trade and stuff. Okay. All right. And if you had to describe Korotkiy with three adjectives, what three adjectives would encapsulate him? Kind of meant to help narrow the role play focus, if you will.
Yeah, he's business oriented.
Okay.
Very very much cares about his business and his work. He is sort of a charlatan almost, since he
Hmm.
does have his acting chops and he is business oriented. He wants to make as much money as possible. So
Okay.
if an adventure comes up that has like a higher price, he might try and sway someone to pay even higher. And last one is cool or calm. He doesn't
Cool
lose
or
his head.
calm?
He doesn't lose his head very easily. He's very very collected.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine being a very large individual, hard for many things to get under their fur, just because of literally much bigger than most people, and can just, growl or do something, and then most people probably back down or what have you. But that's very interesting. The adjectives business oriented, but charlatan. So, okay, I just thought of like, oh, I'm just like, I kind of fell into this thing and I just do this specialization. But now it kind of paints a different picture a little bit of how Korotkiy kind of came into this kind of like, oh, people are always dying and you need people to mourn you. It's like, these adventurers are just sitting on piles of money and, they have to figure out how to divvy out that share somehow. Why not be able to take my cut of this dead person's share or whatever?
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, no, this is very interesting learning about Korotkiy and the process of this NPC creation. Okay, well, now we get to go back to some dice rolling, because there's still dice we haven't used yet. So we like to figure out a valuable item, piece of lore, secret, or ideal or concept that Korotkiy might ascribe to. This is a combination, so we're going to roll a d4 first to determine the valuable category, and then a d6 for the particular thing.
All right. D4 is 1
This is going to be an item.
item, okay. And my 6 was also a 1.
Also a 1. Okay. Wow. Okay. So your this could be this could feed in very nicely for the character. Your item was suggested by our Patreon supporter, our queen, Goblin Katie, aka Katie Downey. Korotkiy has a tarot deck that casts Detect Thoughts once per day.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
This is you think this is how he's getting into the minds of the rest of the adventuring party or whoever comes to pay respects for their beloved dearly departed?
Yes, and I think also with the tarot deck, that makes a lot of sense coming from a circus background. I mean, you would have tarot readers and fortune tellers in a circus sometimes, so that would make sense that he'd pick that up. But yeah, he definitely uses the tarot deck to sort of either get into people that are coming to him to request the service of being a mourner and sort of trying to angle up a better price, or he to at the actual funeral to learn some of the feats of the dead adventurer or dead person.
Interesting. Okay, so is that part of his professional mourning services? Is he offers like tarot readings or something like that to like, oh, you want to make sure that really they've passed on or that they're on a good place or like, communing with the gods, if you will, to be like, let me do this reading for you. And these people may not know that he has the circus background and that charlatan streak in him. So maybe someone else who's trained in tarot cards might know like, oh, actually he's kind of like working this up or playing this up a
Yeah.
little bit to like,
Yeah.
grease the palms in his favor kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. The party comes along, asks a couple questions. Oh, your friend, you want to know more about your friend that passed away? Well, here's their afterlife prediction. And then sort of learn from there, detect thoughts, profit.
Yeah, so detecting thoughts. So he's trying to scrub for information so then he can, use that in his bluffing his way. Well, I mean, some of it may be bluffing, but some of it, I mean, if he's this professional from the former circus life, he probably, knows how to interpret it to a degree. I don't know how
Yeah.
successful or not, but
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, and my question is, how did he get this deck that is magical to cast this spell once a day? Is it from like a former colleague in the circus?
Yeah. Since I guess he was raised in the circus, it would make sense that someone in the circus sort of acted as a guardian towards him.
Mm.
So maybe this tarot deck was his way of like as a parting gift from that guardian.
Ooh. Any clues or thoughts as to who that guardian was? Or are you going to leave it open and ambiguous for whoever wants to use Korotkiy to invent who that could be?
I'll leave it open and ambiguous.
Ooh. So there you go, an easy plug-in spot for your game to be able to slide in Korotkiy there. Perfect. Okay. And then, of course, we like all of our NPCs on this podcast to be able to offer cool side quests to all the hero characters. So maybe interesting, the circumstances in which you will meet Korotkiy. But if you want to randomly generate this, we get to roll the last dice, which is a D12. Or if you're inspired, you can totally invent what you think an appropriate side quest would be that Korotkiy would need the help of the player characters to go and do.
I do love randomly rolling. I might see what I can get out of the random roll and see if I can tie it into what is cooking right now.
Sure.
Yeah. So D12?
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome. I rolled a 10.
10. Ooh, okay. Well, this is also from Nicholas Cardarelli. He gave this response back when he was a guest, before he was a Patreon supporter. But this particular side quest, Korotkiy needs you to deliver the package. What is the package? If he's this business-oriented charlatan, cool, calm, collected guy who's at your party member's funeral, you've paid him, to come and mourn because he doesn't, this rogue that set off the trap didn't, he was edgy, didn't have any family, and you can't afford the resurrection. But yeah, so Korotkiy comes to you and is like, hey, I need you to deliver this package. What could it mean?
Oh gosh. This is a lot harder than I thought it would be.
I mean, it could certainly be open-ended as to like, what his goals and aims are, but Does this have something to do, something, as innocent as like, hey, my old mentor, I want to deliver a package to my old mentor to let him know how I'm doing, and this is where, it ties in with the deck as far as like, oh, that's the guy who gave me the deck. So, oh, my old mentor, I want to give him a care package. Or is it something more, more business as far as like the Actors Guild is concerned, or is it something more nefarious, speaking to the charlatan thing of, of something of that nature?
Yeah, I think with Korotkiy, dealing in kind of the business of death, he might want to speed up his job prospects. So, I need to find out something that is in this package that can relate to sort of either harming an individual or maybe encouraging another individual to harm another. So that way
Okay.
Korotkiy can get a job.
So there's a couple things that I can think of. Obviously, if you had something, tangible that's like, here's a poison that I want you to deliver this package to someone because they know they're expecting this so that they can use it to poison someone. It could be a box of incriminating evidence to, prove of someone's infidelity or dishonest business practices that will surely spell their execution, or any number of those kinds of things. Hopefully, it's not something as drastic as like an explosive device or something of that nature. Not that I'm trying to intentionally be like, oh, trigger warnings of of real life events that people may have experience with or anything like that. It, obviously, you've done your homework, you've done your session zero, you kind of know the vibe of your players and what kind of game you're running. So maybe you leave this open ended to adapt to whichever world and story that Korotkiy finds himself in. Or if you think there is like just something that's like, no, this rings true to the character, this is what he would want you to deliver. Or maybe it's something, completely misleading. It could be something just, sincere and genuine. Maybe it's something for the tribe. Maybe he seems to have found information on a tribe and is trying to just be like, hey, I was dropped off at this circus. I'm trying to see if I belong to this tribe of yetis or not, kind of a thing.
Yeah? Okay. Huh. Yeah, definitely not anything too over the top. I don't think Korotkiy is that sort of character. I think he's more sort of underhanded, so maybe he's sort of delivering some sort of like blackmail um
Oh.
to sort of encourage like a mercenary to go after someone else instead of this person. Maybe
Mm.
someone at the circus is in trouble with a mercenary, and Korotkiy does not want to see them be harmed. So
Mm.
instead, Korotkiy is sending an item. Let's say, let's use the old Game of Thrones method. Let's say it's just a dagger, a
Okay.
special dagger that was used to kill this mercenary's guild leader. Um, Somehow Korotkiy is in possession of it, but that is, sprinkle in some little magic there. Movie
Mm.
magic, how he got that. And
Sure,
he is
yeah, a
asking,
tale.
yeah.
He's an actor. He could spin any kind of yarn that he needs to make it plausible and believable.
And this dagger couldn't even, like, it doesn't have to be that actual dagger. It could just be some random dagger that Korotkiy has spruced up.
Yeah, used
And
his cosplay and prop making skills to dress it up.
exactly, exactly. Add some more rubies to the hilt.
Mm.
And he's using that dagger as sort of like a distraction or blackmail to get this mercenary off of his circus guild member and onto a new target.
Mm. So there's like a fake note in there that's like, from the intended target is sort of like a dare of like, hey, I got this knife, that killed your guild leader, ha ha ha. And so then that'll spur the mercenaries to then go after, the supposed other guy instead of the circus guild member.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Very interesting and very cool. Very sneaky that way. Okay. So, how is Korotkiy going to award the players when they're successful? They've delivered the package, whether it was a kind of like a dead drop or if it was like a like you have to go physically hand it to the person, take it to the mercenary guild hall or whatever, wherever it may be. what's going to be the reward when they report back to Korotkiy that the package has been successfully delivered?
I think Korotkiy is going to use his tarot deck, as mentioned, and sort of figure out what the player is thinking and maybe undercut them from what they had expected, but not too much to them off. But that could be interesting if your player can, sense magic and sense that Korotkiy is detecting your thoughts. So if there's a player that does like figure out that Korotkiy is sort of being a charlatan, I think Korotkiy is going to excuse himself. I'm imagining this in like his apartment. There's like a front room and a back room. He excuses himself to the back room. He puts on a new disguise and he runs out the back door.
Mm-hmm.
He sort of.
Did anyone see that large individual that was just here a moment ago? Oh, there was a large individual that left.
Oh, he's so good at disguises. He's
right.
Like,
the only thing going for the player characters in that regard, if they're going to engage in an urban chase or whatever, is like, we're looking for someone that's large, unless this guy knows how to shape change into a medium-sized creature, or go invisible or whatever it may be. But if he's got his magic bag of tricks, maybe he's got smoke bombs or something like that he dramatically like. Poof.
Yeah, and uses his nimbleness and his quickness to sort of skirt the streets of this metropolitan city.
Yeah. Also, I think yetis innately have some kind of like a frost breath weapon as well. So, you were mentioning earlier, he's a very cool, calm, collected guy. I feel like there's a pun in there of him where being like, chill out. And he goes like, and he like breathes ice on them so they kind of freeze in place a little bit, and he like scampers away.
Of course. Yeah, one of the biggest things they teach in Actors Guild is to do one-liners.
Yes. Yeah, he had his one-liner in the circus and all that. So yeah, that's where he developed it. Perfect. Okay. All right. So he's gonna use the tarot deck on the party then to figure out what they're expecting as a reward, and then he's gonna kind of work it. So he's like almost gonna give them what they think. So in this case, we're assuming like a gold amount. Like he's like, oh, I can pay you in gold, if you go deliver this package. And he's just going to be very vague about what he's willing to pay them. If they're going to kind of hammer the price before they accept the quest, does he promise some number arbitrarily, you think? Like if he's pressed for it?
Yeah, if he's pressed for it before he can do his sort of tarot reading, he's probably going to say, oh, I have a lot of costumes in the back, and I also have some gold for my morning days that would surely sweeten the pot.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to think because if you have to account for the murder hobos, so someone will get angry and then just start attacking this guy to be like, no, I want to know how much gold you have, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But now we have to consider the opposite. What's going to be the consequence of failure or refusing the call to the adventure? So, however the circumstances that Korotkiy and the players have come together, if they say no, if he asks them to deliver this package and they say no, or something happens in the process, the players snoop. They decide to check the package themselves because they're nosy. Or if it's like, the mercenaries don't fall for it, or I don't know. What do you think is going to be the consequence of failure or refusal?
Ooh, I'm assuming, or I guess I shouldn't assume, that this is happening, a little bit after Korotkiy has given them the quest. So maybe Korotkiy has gone back to his apartment, and if the players want to confront him, he is there. And I believe Korotkiy would most likely try and talk to the party, just to hey guys, don't kill me because I'm doing blackmail. It's for a good cause, I swear. My guild member or my circus member is under attack, and they're truly innocent. And I was just trying to help them out. So maybe he would explain sort of his reasoning, trying not to give away, trying not to show too many cards in his hand, but just enough to sort of gain the trust of the party back. But for ultimate failure, I think that he will still do the escape route frost breath thing.
Yeah, chill out. And then he just books it and runs.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like if it's a situation of like, the common phrase being don't kill the messenger, if the mercenaries or whoever they're delivering the package to gets hostile, then it's just a matter of, oh, well, now the party has to deal with the hostile recipients of the package or whatever. And then they come back to Korotkiy and then they have to report how that went. Is that going to play out differently?
Yeah, I mean, if the adventurers end up killing the mercenaries, I think that's helpful to Korotkiy, because I mean
that's a fail forward.
Yeah, fail forward, because like A, you get rid of the people that were threatening your circus members, and B, you have more people to go mourn for.
Yes. But now you've got the ire of this mercenary guild. It's like Fallout 3 with the Black Talon company. Yeah. Suddenly, more Black Talon people are going to start hunting you because it's like, you just wiped out a whole squad of our dudes. What's up with that?
I think that Korotkiy, to like help out the adventurers and to help out himself with this mercenary group, I think that he is going to use his costuming and disguise skills as well as his silver tongue to get into one of the funerals for one of the mercenary peoples that were killed, and make a real big show about crying and throwing himself over in just sadness and grief, encouraging the party members to do the same at this mercenaries funeral to help get this group off their back.
Oh man, it's just just the image of this very large individual. It's like everyone else is like medium-sized normal humanoids, and then there's just this large dude in the back that's just bawling his eyes out. Like, wow, it's like I didn't know that Bob knew this guy. Okay, apparently he did. Like, wow, like Bob really is sad that Doug died in fighting these kids or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I think that Korotkiy will really ham it up. He'll be like, well, me and Bob had this ultimate epic fight when we first met, and I was just so impressed by his skill and prowess that I had to come and give my thanks.
Okay, yeah, so he, like you said, he uses that actor's wittiness and skill to be able to lay it on thick. So probably very trained in the art of deception and persuasion and intimidation, I would wager, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, we've made it through NPC creation. So now it's time we take our NPC and we throw them into a random encounter. This random encounter is brought to you by my sponsor, Zencastr. Zencastr came into my life when I didn't think I would need it, but now I definitely need it with trying to raise a family and keep the podcast episodes flowing and all that stuff, and not trying to keep myself awake for all hours of the night trying to get these episodes edited. Thanks to Dane and Benjamin over at Dispel Magic showing me this service, I was hooked. And I decided to become a paying member so I could get access to all these awesome tools with editing and getting these great episodes to you. So it is so easy and super easy now to record a podcast with Zencastr. You log into your browser and you start recording a high quality podcast right away. You could record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen. Knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. A hard sell. On that point alone, I've been podcasting for a couple of years now. That is amazing. So that is a great selling point of this service. You can sound your best. Have you ever worried what you might sound like on a podcast? With Zencastr's post-production process, it makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes the ums and ahs as you click on that feature in the post-production settings, and in your recordings, it's going to remove those awkward pauses and conversations too with the click of a button. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. It really is that easy. It's all in one. If you have thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are done. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and all other major podcast destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SIDEKQPodcast, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Again, the website, zencastr.com/pricing. Use the code SIDEKQPodcast and get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. Thank you so much to the sponsor, and back to the podcast. All right, so now we're here in the random encounter section of the show. This is where we get to do a little bit of a vignette, a scene, some role-playing, some very light D&D for this evening when we're recording. So I think you're going to do a great job as Korotkiy, but the question I have is, who am I going to be in the scene playing against you? Am I going to be, one of my podcast adventuring characters that stumbles across you in some sort of professional morning? Well, it would be Korotkiy's professional morning, but it would be an adventuring hero type that would be at a funeral for someone and then stumble upon Korotkiy that way. Is it Korotkiy and this circus friend from their past that's having trouble, that's coming to Korotkiy for help? Is it I don't know, any number of interesting scenes, whatever speaks to your fancy. Or is it even Korotkiy with his mentor as he's getting the tarot deck? I mean, like I said, it could be any number of scenes that you're interested in, just a vignette to kind of give us a slice into the life of Korotkiy.
Okay, I think it would be pretty funny if you were a necromancer that kept on raising the people that Korotkiy has gone to mourn.
Oh, okay, so I'm just some random necromancer, you think?
Yeah.
Or is this because as I look at my list of episodes, I've been on a hot streak this season. It's been several episodes since we've actually had one of the podcast adventuring characters come in to be, interacting in one of these scenes. But since you threw out necromancer, I haven't actually invented like a necromancer sort of adventuring character. I guess that would be like another wizard type. So yeah, we could totally invent a brand new character and then kind of throw them into the Rolodex of characters that we could then use for future random encounters with other guests. So I'm down for that if you are. The only thing that I would need to figure out is, because I believe Agape was the last character that was invented, and she's the tiefling Sorlock. Started out as a sorcerer and then became a warlock, Sorlock. So, because I had a lady last time, I think I got to go back to a dude. And plus, you say necromancer, and it's like everyone thinks of a dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but I know everyone loves Withers, who's always doing resurrections for your parties and all that stuff. So I'm wondering if it needs to be like that kind of vibe, like just like literally like an old man. But I'm just curious if you have any bent on the ancestry, because if I've already got, let's see, human, let's see, then we have a dwarf, and then we have a wood elf, and then we have an astral elf, and then we had a tiefling. So who am I missing, to then be able to make this necromancer, this old man necromancer?
Gnome.
A gnome. Brilliant. Okay, so we have an old gnome. Oh man, I was gonna say we need a name for this guy. What's his name? I mean, so and you tell me, because Orion, the Astro Elf illusionist wizard, Orion is like their name that they use, so that way no one knows their true name. If we're following kind of those conventions of like, oh, magic users don't really use their names, or else you get power over them. So
Yeah.
what kind of name, if we have someone like Withers, kind of inspirational wise, but they're a gnome, what kind of name are they using for this guy?
Oh, I tying it to something like necromancy is a little on the nose. I'm looking through these gnome names, and they all have very
Cutesy
funny.
names.
Yeah.
He probably once had a cutesy name, but then he went down on this path and it just kind of sent him off. I wonder if he has, does he use a cutesy nickname that's ironic? Or is he someone that's like, no, I want to go hardcore and sound menacing as all get out, but I'm literally only like 2 or 3 feet tall?
What about? I like the ironic version, so maybe something to do with like life and living.
Hmm.
Maybe something like I just got this last name Copper Spell, and I was like Life Spell is his name because that's what he's trying to do.
So he goes by the name Life Spell. Okay, all right. So this is okay. So a brand new NPC has been created for the podcast of the adventuring characters. We have Life Spell the Necromancer, and he's a gnome, probably.
Yes.
Probably was once a forest gnome, a rock gnome, you think, or a deep
Probably
gnome?
Forest Gnome.
Forest gnome. Okay,
Yeah.
forest
You
gnome
see,
named Life Spell.
you see a lot of life and death in the forest, so
Naturally. Okay, and then all right, so it's going to be a scene of Lifespell the Necromancer is meeting Korotkiy at this funeral because he is constantly trying to raise all these people up. But he just doesn't have the mana or the spell slots to do it.
yeah. So maybe he's sort of like buying his time, and sort of gathering up some more diamonds to help raise people. So I think with any good funeral, it's a dark and stormy night, and this is the funeral of. Let me just generate a random name real fast. We're at the funeral of Phoenix, and they are a half elf who has recently passed away after flying a little bit too close to the sun. And to the sun, I do mean the forge. He was a forger. But this Phoenix, they lay dead, and Korotkiy has joined in, and because Korotkiy had asked like some of their family members that had reached out to him to come to this funeral and help bolster Phoenix's numbers. Korotkiy has learned that Phoenix was really big into this certain type of flower called the chrysanthemum. So Korotkiy comes with a bouquet of chrysanthemums. Why did I choose the hardest flower name to pronounce? We don't know. He comes with a bouquet of them full, and he's doing his best acting. And yeah, I'll leave it open to you.
So Phoenix one of my adventuring party members, or is just like I'm just the necromancer who's on the prowl looking for bodies for my skeleton bros and stuff like that? I'm just kind of wondering how eccentric of an old man I am, because I definitely rolled randomly and it confirms that I am an elder gnome. So I just kind of seem to putter around, and I'm just kind of like looking and I'm seeing all the people and acknowledging them. And maybe I do manage to have one undead with me, but I have them very heavily dressed, wearing like a mask, so it kind of obscures their facial features. So people kind of like regard my manservant, for the stench. But I just usually typically mutter or babble something about like, oh, it's not his time for his monthly bath or whatever. Yeah. So what do you think, Dungeon Master? Am I a party member of Phoenix, or just an old man puttering through the funeral services?
I think Lifespell is hanging out at the local funeral home just to see what sort of new bodies pop up.
Yes, I do like them young and strapping. Yes, that means they have good bones for my army. Yes. And then so he's like puttering around, and he's like gently trying to make his way and like get a good eye on the body laid before in the wake. And then he looks over and he sees this very, very large, compared to him, a very large individual And so he just kind of looks at him, uh, and seeing the chrysanthemums and the crying and stuff like that, he legitimately thinks like, oh, he must really know this guy. And so he'll just be like, you, big fella, you know this body, this fellow body of man person thing? Yes.
Um, so I like that you mentioned that the servant is dressed up. Do you think Korotkiy could recognize this as a costume and sort of get some understanding that this person that is traveling with this gnome is not actually a person, nor is it alive?
Oh yeah, I think with your acting skills, it's you'd have advantage on doing a check and easily determining like the manservant moves in like a very jerky sort of manner, like seeming to indicate like a skeleton. And when you look beyond the portion of the mask that's not obviously covered by a top hat and like some big scarf, you can see like bone bleach white peeking out from underneath, and you're like, that's a skull. And so this thing, a little bit of clattering and stuff like that, and but Life Spell actually did go to some work to like put some like actually like taps on the shoes, so it almost sounds like he's like a tap dancing sort of manservant, if you will.
Okay, little traveling entertainment. I
Yeah.
think this definitely piques Korotkiy's interest. But he still wants to make this person, this gnome, believe that he's here on true and honest reasons. So Korotkiy would wipe his tears and go, "Oh yes, I have known Phoenix for around he was quite young for an elf, so not that long, but still long in terms of human life. You would know. Anyways, it is just so hard to see them die so young and so able of body as a forge master, so strong, very good with a hammer. I've heard he's definitely trying to like lay it on a little thick because Korotkiy has kind of picked up that he can pick up other people's bodies. And
I think Life Spell rolls his insight check, and he kind of rolls low because he's more distracted with like, what can I, how, let me look at the body, make sure it's in good condition, figure out where it's going to be buried, so that I can come back later and raise dead and all that, or create undead from it. But he's really trying to like, he's like looking around at all the staff, and he's like, you hear him muttering. It's gnomish, but it also comes through in common as well. He's like, it better not be that one cemetery. Yes, they have enchantments on it that prevent the undead from raising, which is really a bother. And it just has really been putting me behind on my skeleton army. Yes, And so, Korotkiy's able to clearly hear all that, this old man puttering and muttering, but, catching himself and trying to come back to the scene that Korotkiy is, saying like, oh, I know this half elf and his life. And he's like, very good, good job. And very, very tragic when they die tragic, die young, but good stock. Yes, he was made of good stock. Yes.
At this, Korotkiy is going to sort of lean down or get down on his knees, however he can, to get close to Life Spell, and Korotkiy will sort of ask, "So your buddy next to you, is he okay? Is your buddy here okay?"
My manservant? Yes, he's fine. Do dance. Do a little da-da-da-da-da. And he like holds his hands out, and the skeleton finishes doing like a clack and like making finishing the musical cue. He's like, yes, my fine manservant here. Yes. He does the old man thing where he's sitting there, he's trying to rack his brain, trying to think of the name. Mm, mm. And I'm wondering if he being gnome and stuff like that, he probably thought of like some sort of pun that had to do with like bones or skeletons.
Yeah.
And so the only ones that I can think come to mind, something like marrow or wheel or bone meal, or I don't know. What do you think would be like a pun sort of skeleton bone osteo Oscar? I don't know. What do you think would be a good pun name? I'm drawing a blank, like this old man.
Puns are hard when you're put on the spot.
True. So then, you know what? I'm just gonna call it, and I'll say he goes. Octavius is a grand manservant, the grandest one that a man could ever want in his life. Yes. And so he's like, yes, present the card. And so then, Octavius reaches into a pouch, and you do see the skeleton, is wearing gloves. And so when he goes to extend the card and you take it, you can very clearly tell, like, there's no meat on beneath the gloves of these hands. It's like literally just skeleton hands being covered by like thick gloves and stuff like that. And then the hand retracts back in a jerky manner and just continues to idle, listening to life spells commands.
Korotkiy is gonna take this card and give it a quick read, and he'll reply back. So, you see, do you have any other of these servants that maybe you can't take out and about, maybe because of less than desirable tailoring? And Korotkiy gonna point to Mr. Octavius and sort of, motion towards the bone peeking out to life spell.
And then he follows the line of gaze, and then he sees that. And then so life spell will be like, Octavius, I told you to mind your outfit. And so then he will use his mending cantrip to like mend up the clothes. So then they like seal up properly like they should be. And he's like, it's hard to find good help these days, especially when they're able to body. And so more muttering and inane ramblings and stuff like that. But he does answer Korotkiy in the way saying like, employment opportunities are hard to fulfill. I've been trying to find good help, but I keep running athwart of red tape. The divine sense of tape. Clergy, hallowed grounds, that sort of. But then he feels like he said too much, and so he starts climbing up and like really eyeballing this guy now, being like, why is he asking so much about Octavius?
Korotkiy, he picks up on this sort of like hesitation, and he wants to sort of give his own little, he wants to show a little card so that life spell can gain a little trust back. And he's going to say, well, you see, I deal in the dead, but not in the sense that you might be thinking. Well, let's just be real. I didn't pick these flowers just so I could come here and cry without getting paid.
I see your aim, your game.
But you see, I could help with this sort of outfitting of your manservants so that you might be able to take them out onto longer expeditions around the town without having other people noticed, if that's what you might want.
Yes, Octavius, your threads are getting much too old. They're last century. We must keep up with the times. Yes. This one knows. See, Octavius, this is what it is when you use your mind for good, smart things. And the skeleton just kind of like blankly looks at him because he's a skeleton. He doesn't have brains. He can't think. But Lifespell just believes as if he's like berating Octavius for not thinking of obvious things. He's like, yes, young man. Yes. We can come to an arrangement, I believe. Yes. So, I don't often find myself in these situations. What is it that, is there some need of me that you need? He's like, he fiddles his pockets and he's like, not enough diamonds, not enough components. Yeah. Help, you need help, yes.
Well, yes, you see, I think our skill sets could be very valuable when used together. So much so that we could, get 3 for the price of 1, if you're catching my drift.
Yes. Yes, quantity. Yes, quantity is good. So they usually say quality over quantity, but let's be honest. In what we're dealing with, you always want quality. You want quantity over quality. Oh my goodness, Octavius, you're messing with my morning coffee amounts. I'm saying wrong things. And he like smacks him, and he's a skeleton. He just takes the hit, and it doesn't do anything to him. But again, he has to show that he's like this competent, master of this manservant. Uh, he's like, yes, quantity is my aim. Yes.
Yeah, with that, Korotkiy he feels like he's baited and he's hooked. So now he's going to start sort of reeling it in a little bit. So you agree that quantity is more powerful over quantity, especially in our business when we get paid for each person. So how about we do a little deal? You
Deal?
will go.
Okay, deal. What deal? Yes. What do you need? What do you need, man? Big man?
I will give you a cut of my earnings as a let's just say friend to all that are dead, and I will help outfit your manservants so that they may pass more easily through cities and towns without getting um, noticed. And you will provide me with more funerals to attend by just bringing back our friends and having them play their little play once or twice or 3 times, and the rest of them will have to be closed casket, of course.
He starts getting a little maniacal chuckle, which he then looks around and sees like this family, like half of them are kind of like, why is this little man laughing maniacally in our loved one's funeral? And so he like very quickly he's like, yeah. He does like a prayer gesture of like, like, oh yeah, ashes, ashes, dust to dust, be gones, bygones, your soul. And he like very hurriedly finishes through something, so then he can just like work to try and pull Korotkiy more into private, so then that way they can start their scheming. And then so yeah, then is this where the package handoff happens?
Yes, I think so. I think Korotkiy has this job in mind, and he will pass off this package. And sometimes, when you're fighting mercenaries, sometimes things can get a little out of hand, and you'll end up with a little bit more bodies than you do people. And maybe that will just, the more bodies there are, the more times you can res them. More quantity, more payment.
And scene. So there we go. We made it through the random encounter section of the show. So what did you think it was like getting to be Korotkiy, the professional Mourner Yeti?
It is very fun to just roll random characters because you can get. I think it's a challenge just trying to get everything to work together. But as you see, you can things just end up tying together. Like the tarot cards just ended up really working out because I didn't plan on having him be a circus background. I just like, yeah, circus. So that was really fun.
Yeah, I think sometimes, having random prompts, allows for the most creativity to flow, because it's like you have, the entirety of the sandbox to play in, but you get like your edges defined. So it's like, okay, well, I know how big my sandbox is, and it's not like the Sahara Desert, if you will, of like analysis paralysis. It's like, okay, here are my roles, here are my things I have to work with, and then bam, let's play.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're here now in the final section of the show called Final Thoughts, very aptly named. But yeah, I always like to check in with the guest and figure out, how was your time on the show? Did you like it? Did you vibe? All that good sort of kind of stuff.
Yeah, this was super fun. Usually when I play D&D, I am the forever player, so sort of taking the role into figuring out NPC and writing their story and getting their quest was different, but it was still like it was challenging in the way that like it's like a brain teaser, almost. Yeah.
Well, certainly, we've made our way up to 130 episodes, so we've got a good amount of NPCs and side quests that have already been thought up of, in combination with me, but certainly by guests of this illustrious podcast. So, if you feel like you've gotten your itch now of like, oh, I could be a DM, this is easy. Or, with a little bit of a prompting, a little bit of a morale, courage boost, it's like, yeah, I could be a DM. Then, I've got a whole cornucopia of characters that you could definitely use and stick in your game. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I could just do the random roller and see what comes out.
Exactly. Yeah, you could totally do that too. I believe, at one point, Katie and Ben, for their show that they were doing, they were like, oh, we love this idea of the random roller. We should totally do this for our game and just invent a bunch of different tables and make up NPCs for our game world that way, live on Twitch and stuff like that, and have that fun with the community of being able to invent NPCs on the spot and stuff like that. So
yeah,
totally. So of course, this is certainly, final thoughts, any other feedback or critiques. But before I totally, end the episode, I always like to have the guests take the stage, the microphone, the soapbox, the platform, and to be able to promote and plug, where we can find you on social media, where you want to be followed if you do, all the, the various wonderful things that you've got going on, and then any passions or projects or causes that you want to let us know about. Lay it on us.
Yeah, as always, I'm SkylineStars or Sky. You can find me on the internet. I'm over on Instagram at skyline.stars. I'm also on TikTok and YouTube if you want to check out more video content. And if you like cloaks and you have a Rim Fair coming up, you can check out my cloak brand, Enchanted Moth Hollow. And that is all across the internet as Enchanted Moth Hollow with 2 H's. Or check out our online shop, enchantedmothhollow.com.
Wonderful. Well, again, Sky, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I can't wait to have you back on, making even more interesting NPCs. Ooh, yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Overcast, or YouTube, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app or player of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Instagram/Threads, Twitter/X, and Reddit by searching for SideKQ Podcast. You can also find our small Discord community as well online. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. And hey, if you'd like to hail the bard and send me a message, an email, you can do so by communicating with sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you leave a review on iTunes, 5 stars please, to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. As mentioned in the NPC creations section of the podcast, I do in fact have a Patreon for Sidekicks and SideQuests. If you love this podcast and what we're trying to do here, I would appreciate it if you would just go to the website, patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Modest, comfortable, wealthy, and aristocratic accommodations await, and we welcome all patrons to the Levitating Platter. Seriously, your financial support allows for this passion project to continue to invest in itself through the tools that will take our production to the next level, as well as provide more content for our patrons and the community at large. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you can.
Sidekicks and SideQuests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy.
Meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards.
Portions of the materials used are property of Wizards of the Coast.
Copyright Wizards of the Coast,
LLC.
Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
bar to rock on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.